Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mech Bay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. I'm your host, Josh, and today I have a special guest with me, our friend from across the sphere, Mr. Brent Stewart.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and luckily the transit time wasn't too long. There was a bit of a circuit we set up, right?
Yeah, we had a command circuit all the way straight to Terra. How are you doing tonight, Brent?
I'm doing all right. Plugging away, doing all the things, making sure all the wheels are turning in the background so that the show keeps on going. And yeah, it's a thing. It's life, and I think we're all surviving as best we can these days.
As best we can is the best answer. Survival is the priority mission right now.
Most of us may be limping off the field with one leg blown off our mech, but at least we're getting off the battlefield, right?
You don't have to pass all your PSRs. Just one. Just the one that matters.
Right.
So for our listeners that don't know, Brent is the host of the On the Origins of Battle Mechs podcast. Essentially what they do is go over each mech on a chronological scale and go into each variant. How would you describe your podcast?
That's a pretty good description. We go from beginning to end, and to make it simple for me organizing it, I went chronologically, started with the Mackie, and just went forward, and we cover every model on an episode. So the Mackie episode has every model of the Mackie that is listed on Master Unit List. So if you want to know about the Mackie, it's your one-stop shop. And we've gotten all the way up to the Marauder, and that one is recorded, and the Whitworth will be coming out tomorrow at time of recording. I realize that I have several years of work ahead of me, but I find it rewarding and enjoyable, and I've been a member of the BattleTech community for a long time, we'll say, because I discovered it when I was a teenager. But, I think we all had that dead period in our BattleTech careers, if it's of any significant length, because, well, I think it's fair to say that BattleTech has come out of a hibernation, and it's coming out with a vengeance, and I love it because there's so much cool stuff, and the reason it's alive is because of the great community, and I'm honored to be able to give back a little of the support and sense of community that I've given.
So you're strapped into the cockpit until you're dead or we find someone better, right?
Fair enough.
So how'd you get into BattleTech as a whole?
Technically, if we're going to get super technical, the answer is the 90s cartoon.
Oh, no.
But it's one of those things where when I got into it as a teenager, I was like, oh, what's this cartoon? Let's check this out. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, my childhood. But when I really got into it was MechWarrior 3 and then MechWarrior 4, which led me to, go online when the internet was not what it is today and try and find the resources I could, which were scarce and not fully fleshed out. And so the tabletop, unfortunately, was not an option because the resources weren't really there for me, as well as a complete and utter lack of play group. But what I was able to find was the novels, a lot of the novels, because my hometown has a very thriving used book community and that. So I was able to basically find all of the original run of the novels. I have most of the Dark Age in physical copy. And, I'm catching up the stuff that's been released since I kind of took a break after WizKids made the intellectual property go into dormancy, we'll say.
True. I think that's just fascinating that you got in through the cartoon. I don't know that many people that got into it because I didn't see it until I was well into the BattleTech MechWarrior career, just Googling, and I was like, oh, there's a cartoon. Oh, this is not aged well.
No, the one thing that has kind of aged well is the 3D, but that's with the asterisks of for its time. Yes. Compare it to everything else for its time. It's like, that actually is quite good. But the rest is absolute meme fodder.
So you had the cartoon and a whole bunch of books and then the video games. So you said you had all of the Jihad and Dark Age. So what would you say is your like favorite era then that you like to play in or stick to, or that you just like, that's your safe, fun space, your happy place, essentially?
See, now I think every era has its charms, and there's something of promise and value in each era. But the era that I particularly love to play, and the one that, if we're going to say, is my happy place, and that is Invasion, because the idea of facing off against the unknowable horde coming in to get you is one of those like romantic last stand stories are just like ripe with.
Oh yeah, no, it's everything's raised to 11 from the nightly duels and little border skirmishes.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's full on warfare. Your planet will be conquered and your way of life will change rather than just the flag changing.
Yes. I started with the video games because who doesn't love stompy robots? And then I discovered the books, and I definitely stayed for the politics because I think that's a fundamental backbone, and a lot of people don't realize how much they appreciate it as part of the world, because without the intrigue, a lot of the fights are just, numbers.
You don't like hot mech on mech action? 300 pages of just what's the line? The laser turned the armor into slag 1,000 times over.
Don't get me wrong, I love a great mech battle, but it's much more interesting when they have motivations and are fighting for things, especially when both sides have justifications that you can empathize with.
Gives a reason to actually be there and involved and have a connection to it.
And I mean, one of the strengths of the Battletech universe, I think, is that each faction is this sort of amalgam or mixing pot of several factions, eras, ideologies, what have you, from history. And so everybody can empathize with each faction on some level and find something that they like about them. Even the clans. But it's a stretch sometimes.
They're the worst and best of humanity. So if your favorite happy place era would be the clan invasion, what would be your mech then? What's your go-to ride around the sphere?
Well, I mean, as any good mech jock, I think I have to take a machine for the right mission, because sending a Atlas out for scouting is not a great idea, despite what the Steiners think. But everybody's got their like quote unquote preferred weight class and preferred ride, and if we're gonna narrow it down, I like to be a little bit more mobile, so I go for the mediums or the heavies. And if I'm going for a medium, I usually go for a Centurion. It's a classic answer. You often get it for the starting mech in a lot of video games for a reason. It's solid. It's not super fast, but it's got a good amount of armor, a good amount of firepower, and you can hang on to it as a cornerstone of your lance for quite a while because it's just really good. And if we're talking heavy mech, that's a little harder to narrow down. If we're going to go clan, I'm going to take a Thor or Summoner, just because I like the mobility, the jump capability, and the Gauss rifle variant is very, very nice to be able to reach out and just touch someone with one of those nice silver slugs.
But no, the Centurion is definitely a fun mech and one that you can use through all eras, and it has some excellent variants, especially the Yenlo Wang with the Gauss rifle, to the opposite, just AC-20.
There's a lot of variants. There's a lot of capability and tonnage that you can play with there. There's a reason it's a cornerstone of the battlefield for so long.
Definitely. So when you do get to play, and I guess when you previously played before the pandemic quarantine that we're all struggling through, did you do a lot of Alpha Strike, a lot of Classic? What was your preferred poison of the week?
Well, I have never played a game of Alpha Strike, unfortunately. I do have the book from the Kickstarter, so that's the plan, to hit the ground running once we get opened up here. But until then, I still have to make do with Megamech, as many of us do. I've had a couple of games IRL, but most of my experience is, practicing with other people on MegaMech, which I think is a great tool. The longer this goes on, the more it feels like, this is a completely valid substitute for playing in real life. But it definitely is a different energy, because you can never really replace the energy of having a in real life meetup and rolling the dice on the battlefield. But it is also nice to have a game not take like 8 hours.
Yeah, in the few times I've played since, like either meeting up with Dustin or Denham, I've realized I almost get like anxious because I've been playing MegaMech and now I'm used to BattleTech where it's rolling fast. Like all the numbers like are either pre-done or I know where I'm going, and the modifier is like, all right, it's been 2 seconds. Why aren't you rolling? Go faster. Go now. Yeah. Go now.
Calm down. There's not a speed clock on the side of the table. It's okay.
I don't know if there was a competition for who could play BattleTech the fastest or the most anxious, but I'd definitely be part of the anxious section. Yeah, MegaMech is definitely turned into the I can't believe it's not butter / I can't believe it's not the real play anymore. So, But we're spreading it on our BattleTech tables anyways and calling it a day. Because honestly, at this point, I think we're all taking whatever we can get.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
The big question is, what made you want to do a BattleTech podcast?
Well, honestly, it's not BattleTech that wanted to make me do a podcast. I had been interested in doing podcasting for a couple of years. And before the pandemic, I was a big Magic the Gathering Canadian Highlander player, as in, like, I did, the standard format, chased it a couple times, bounced off it, felt like it was a money sink because I didn't have the time or resources or skill to quite jump over that last hurdle to make it kind of self-sustaining. But I was very good at Canadian Highlander, which is a slightly different format. I was able to build a play group here that, we fired every week, and it was a lot of fun. And then the pandemic happened. Oof. And then I discovered the Kickstarter after it had, fully funded and was in the second backer phase, I think it was, where it was completely funded, but they still had it open if people wanted to throw in still. And so I was able to throw in and did, and was like, oh, I can't believe this part of, my past is still kicking around. I love it. I wonder what they're doing, and caught up on all the stuff that I had missed or started to, because, that well is quite deep, let's be honest. And, was like, oh, I could do a podcast about this. I've read all the novels. I have all this ingrained knowledge. I have this skill set, as in that, I think that I am a pretty good speaker. People at least say I'm a good speaker, and I have a lovely speaking voice. Everyone says they hate the sound of their own voice, right? But I did have to teach myself how to do editing and all of that, which was interesting and a skill. And thanks YouTube tutorials for help with all of that. And I was able to find my two co-hosts, Joshua and Chandler, through the WolfNet Discord community, because there's a great and active group over there. If you're at all interested in learning about MegaMech, they have an active community, and you can usually find somebody for a pickup game, and lots of interesting stuff going on over there. And we started recording about a year ago and change, because beginning of August was our 1-year anniversary. And we've had our release schedule change a bit over the time as the episodes have grown and refined and expanded their scope, and scope creep is a thing.
Scope creep is definitely a thing.
You should definitely try to keep that in check. And so, yeah, it's I wanted to do a podcast for a while, and then I finally found my niche, and I found some great co-hosts, and we've been running ourselves down this road and jumping over all the pitfalls we can as we go and figuring it out and having a great time.
No, I love what you guys do, and I am a subscriber and love to listen to you guys and all of the BattleTech nitty gritty. Why is this medium laser in this arm, not the other arm? Talk on my ways into work. Like, it's just gets me in the technical mood that I love to kind of work me up into the workday. And
well, happy to help. And the McVay podcast is also a great listen. So you got a subscriber with me as well, and I'm sure I don't have to tell everybody listening that you do good work.
No, I appreciate it. So, but no, I'm surprised that you haven't offloaded all the heavy lifting onto your co-host slaves, indentured servants yet.
Well, we have Jeff, who recorded a couple episodes with us early on. He has been a great help. He does a bunch of editing and stuff on the back end, just because, of his schedule. He can't always make it for recording, but he likes to put in his 2 cents and help out where he can, and I cannot sing his praise enough. He is a great member of the crew and a great member of the community. And Chandler has also been helping out with a bunch of the back-end stuff, and that has helped him work out some kinks on some other things he has been working on, which I think is all I'm allowed to say at this point, or else he might shoot his AC-20 at me. And Joshua has been helping out with editing as well. We all have our skill sets, and we all have our schedules and time availability, and so we all try to pitch in where we can.
No, that's great that you have a strong team behind you to support you and drive the way forward.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a point, you're a star.
How about we do it? Say it's a combined arms battalion.
There you go.
I mean, after all, Joshua is very proud of his boot slogging days, and a bunch of us are very fond of the tanks and VTOLs and stuff. So I for one absolutely love battle armor and want to play with it more on the battlefield.
You got to give something to the treadheads and the toadies.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The last one is, what's your most memorable moment in BattleTech? Like anything that happened on a game or on a Mega Mac that you just made you fall in love and cement that this is what you wanted to do?
That is a very good question, because there's so many good moments, and I think the thing that really got me hooked, and it's going to sound a little blasphemous when I say this, it was playing during the era of clicky tech. No, don't turn off the podcast. It's fine. See,
I never played clicky tech, so it's just cool, a clicky tech thing, I guess, yeah. Right?
One of the guys who was a classic BattleTech fan, enjoyed playing it because it was what we had available. And there was a bunch of people who had come over from the gaming community of the DC hero clicky tech, because it's it's by these guys. We like this mechanic in these games. Oh, giant stompy robots. Cool. That's neat. Let's check it out. And he eventually got a side campaign going set on Solaris 7, where we had our pilots, and they could upgrade and spend experience to get better modifiers and things like that. And having a light mech pilot early on get a good couple rolls on getting very good aim, and then basically unloading with my autocannon as I run up and then hit them with the giant chainsaw. It's just okay, this is sweet.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Another one.
And narratively, I think MechWarrior 4, MechWarrior 3 was really good, and it was interesting and cool, but it also asked a lot of questions for me, because I was okay, who are these clans? Because, they kind of explain who the clans are, but it's one of those, this is the answer. well, that just raises more questions. Like, okay, cool. You talk about the Star League like I'm supposed to know what it means. But MechWarrior 4 having the very small personal story of losing your planet after coming home from the Clan Homeworlds, which is the other game that I had just played. So I did have a little bit of the ingrained knowledge. But then coming in, it's like, oh, I can get behind the story. You're coming home. You're supposed to be lauded as a hero. And like, you're supposed to have downtime now. And you're getting thrown into the fire because your family was betrayed and is gone. Like, that's, hits you right in the feels. And, me being the completionist I am, I did both of the endings, and, they're a bit of a gut punch if you're really invested, and, they're not the best video quality or, production quality, but, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just go like, yeah, you know what, I'm enjoying this and I like this and I feel for it because I've been the one playing it and moving the story forward.
Definitely being able to draw an emotional attachment to a game like that is something that a lot of series wish they could do. And that's awesome that you could achieve that and kind of carry that with you into the entirety of BattleTech. So anything you want to tell your co-host that they won't hear until this airs? They're not behind you. You can say it freely.
I think I'll tell them exactly what I tell them to their face, that they're doing a great job and I appreciate them, and the show wouldn't be here without them. So, go team. Thanks for being here with me in the trenches working on this crazy project.
All right. So now that we've introduced you and kind of given you a MechWarrior profile, let's do some hobby progress time. So, Brent, what have you been up to lately? I know you've just moved recently, listening to your podcast. So have you had any chance to either set up your gaming table, your painting station, anything like that?
Not quite yet. I am digging out all of my supplies. I've got all my models dug out. I've got the little, hand stand. I can't remember what it's called. It's like a pommel with the little clips that the bases will lock into so you can paint and you don't have to like cramp your hand while holding it. I have 2 jewelry stand holders that I use for painting if I need to hold it upside down and get the light in a specific spot, because I aspire to be a good painter. I am not there yet, but one day. No, the most of the stuff has been going towards setting up the new place, making sure my computer is working the way I want it to, and all of that, because I want to do some streaming, specifically some tabletop RPG streaming over the internet, because, Discord's great for that, and as the pandemic has shown, there's a market for that. And what better than the new MechWarrior Destiny RPG? I still have to figure some things out, double check some stuff, finish figuring out who, where, what, when, and how. But it's one of those, it's early days, but I feel confident enough saying that it is going to happen. Not near. There is no date I am willing to say at this point, though.
No. I mean, don't get tied up in the details. Just ride the enjoyment of planning something fun and adventurous like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, Destiny would be great. I know if and when you get that going on, I will kick that up on my monitor and just watch that.
Because it is an interesting and vibrant world where you can tell a lot of very personal and interesting stories on the ground level, I think.
It's the personal level rather than the lance of faceless mechs.
Mm-hmm.
So just to double check, no casualties, no arms going to have to be re-glued or things repinned.
Nothing as of yet. I mean, there is some things that didn't quite make it before everything got packed up away because, well, cats be cats sometimes.
True.
And but those are mostly the 2 of the 5 old Ironwind ones I had from way back in the day, that I could find on the corner on the game store on the back rack that had been there for about 10 years and had been picked over by every other kid who was interested in Battletech before me.
Oh, man. In any exodus, not all dropships make it. So.
It's true. Sadly true.
For me, I know I got a game in of the local Battletech campaign missions, which was excellent. It was funny because Denham is hosting that one, and he asked me if I had all of the papers and information I had before the pandemic, where we played one game before all the shutdowns happened. And I looked through all my stuff because I have also moved and rearranged everything. And at the very bottom of my pile, there was my character sheet, my C-bills, all of that. And I brought it in and I was like, is this still valid? It's been a year and a half. It's crinkled up. It's got coffee stains on it, but I have it. And he's like, yeah, sure. So I've got one mission on everyone, which is funny, but that was great. I got to play my mongoose and we did a chase mission. That was our Lance of Formex versus Pirate Formex, trying to get across 3 map sheets with a river in between. It came down to a lot of, quote, hand wavium to make sure a locust did not outrun 2 mongooses and a commando and a panther, but we were able to leg him, blow out his gyro, and then unfortunately 2 of my lance mates got destroyed by the hunchback with an AC-20. So, always a reminder, keep those movement modifiers up.
Oh,
and if you think they're high, they're not high enough.
So what you're saying is your movement modifier is here, but it needs to be up here.
Yeah, it was sad. I know this is how those missions go when you play like a true style Battletech campaign. Okay, you took an AC-20 to the center torso in your Panther, and you don't physically have that much armor. So it always sucks to do that. I will keep racking my brain around ways to make it more almost Dungeons and Dragons style, where, okay, you can die first round, but it's more improbable than that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was still an excellent game. I got 2 kills. I did not die. I got shot by a rear laser of a Centurion, so, it was one of those, I got shot by a rear-facing medium laser. What?
You should congratulate your opponent for finally unlocking that achievement.
He was a 6 or 7 year old who had just stumbled into the store, and of course we threw the dice in his hands like, "Hey, roll this, kid."
Yeah.
First one's free.
Yeah, first case is free. I was just about to say that. Yeah. Every other hit is very expensive.
But yeah, so that was my big play of the last 2 weeks. The rest has been planning up the Clan Invasion episodes, more painting. I swear, everyone, I will get these Diamond Sharks mechs painted and new pictures up onto the Facebook page. I swear. Don't hurt me, please.
It's okay. I'm sure everybody is waiting, like me, very patiently for the lovely photos when they do come. There's a lot of people posting absolutely excellent paint jobs and, modifications. And so there's lots of stuff to see. It's not everybody coming to you. Don't worry.
Yeah. For those that aren't on the Discord, we do have a hobby progress section. And I will say one of our new members thought that was all of my stuff in there. And I was just like, I wish that all of the pictures of all the mechs were mine. But no.
I'm glad you think I'm that talented.
Talented, rich, all of the above.
Don't have to have a day job.
I don't know. I don't know if I could do Battletech painting all day, 8 hours a day. I think it would kill me. But
I would be fearful of it killing my love of the hobby.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. There can be too much of a good thing.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it for hobby progress this week. So keep on chugging along, everyone. No rush. Like I said, I do the 12 models a year method, which is you can either get them all done on the last day or spread them out one a month. There's no rush, no pressure. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into How to Fight the Clans 101 with Brent.
Tell you what, do you want to defend the inner sphere and defend it good? Then what you need is a high-quality coolant vest. The Infrigerator 3050 is one of the finest, if not the finest, cooling vest on the market today. We're talking 440 stainless, quick-release ports, and now I don't believe this. Is this the arsenic trifluoride coolant upgrade at this price?
It is, yep.
At this price? You've got to be kidding me. That's got to be a mistake right there.
Now, you Mechwarriors at home, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking that can't be the prototype arsenic trifluoride coolant upgrade. It's gotta be the cheaper trinitrogen glycol coolant. But I have the specs right here. This is the real deal.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. That's exactly what it is. I mean, this is... I have no words to describe this deal, honestly. Have you ever seen an arsenic trifluoride at this price?
No, I don't believe I ever have.
2803-1957 is the item number on this one, folks.
You know what? We're going to have to put a clock on this deal, folks. 2 weeks, folks. Can I get a clock on this for 2 weeks?
2 weeks at most, and I'd be surprised if they last that long.
Now, folks, I know Comstar is busy, but HPGN if you want the extreme pinnacle of comfort for Alpha Striking in your Stalker or Black Knight. No longer will you feel the sizzle and burn of those lasers on your bare skin. You'll be wishing for an inferno round to the cockpit once you're wearing this.
Newsflash, Mechwarriors. The new Ill Clan book just arrived at Fortress Games and Miniatures. By the time you receive this HPG message, they will have some amazing new Death Ray design miniatures with another Strato reorder arriving from Orbit shortly. They also have new Fortress Games and Miniatures dice that I hear roll 6s 16% of the time. I'd also like to congratulate Cody Blake for winning the Percival painting contest. Good job on that paint scheme, Mechwarrior. But if you are looking for hardware, Ares Games and Miniatures has you covered with all of the new dropships and lance carriers from Hardware Studios. If you thought that was cool, check out the new Crab Mech and Hot Dog Mech, perfect for the Solaris Arena or the Periphery Bazaar Adventure. Find them at aresgamesandminiatures.com. All right, and we are back. So you've gotten your butt kicked by 75 tons of clan tech, only to be told,
Get good, Freebirth.
and you've had it up to here. You've been chugging along fine with medium lasers and AC-10s until the balance of power is radically changed. Well, it's a good thing you signed up for this training module, Mechwarrior. The new Avalon Institute of Science Clan Warfare Department guarantees a 38% increase in your survival upon completion this course. So me and Brent are going to cover the common mistakes of fighting against the clans and some things you can do to improve your chances of success. First things first. So Brent, what do you think is the preferred BV level that a clan versus IS game should be going into right at the 30-50 time period?
I mean, that's really a question of scale and time, but generally, if you're looking for an average sort of pickup game, the 5 to 6K is a pretty solid number. If you're looking to get a, Star versus Lance, you might want to up that so you're not just using light to medium clan machines because, you can only run the Fire... is it Fire Ferret? Sorry, I'm having one of those moments where names blur soup.
Yeah, no. The really light clan mech versus the other really light clan mech.
Yeah. Because it's the Kit Fox is the Uller, and then is it Ice Ferret is the
medium one? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's Fire. No, it's Adder. Is it Adder? No, the Adder and the Puma. I could do this all night. You're just like
Dustin. You're just like Dustin on the last episode. He's like, "Is that the Adder? No, that's the Puma." Wait a second.
Look. I'm a big proponent of. I don't have to memorize everything if I remember where to look.
Exactly.
I have lots of documents on my Google Drive that have lots of notes.
See, this is why I always take the human TRO special pilot ability when I play the campaigns. Yeah. It's like, no, I need to know. I need to know so I know. And everyone else needs to know that I know. Yeah, if you're wanting to fight like 5 clan mechs, I think 5-6K is fine. The clan people are not going to be happy. The IS people will probably be perfectly happy because they don't have to change anything. They can take 4 or 5 just like they've been running in 30-25. and translate that over. For clan, going down to that level means you really are going to be restricted to melee lights. Definitely going to have to include battle armor.
I mean, you can also do some narrative workarounds. You could have a somewhat lower BV value and have medium to heavy machines doing a, heavy patrol or recon in force, and then have a lot of smaller and higher number inner sphere units ambush them. So it doesn't have to be a 1-to-1, because you can build a narrative around it if you try. It takes some imagination.
Yeah. For me personally, I know me and Dustin have done at least 10K for our clan versus inner sphere games. The inner sphere pilot almost always has to, if they wanted to take like a normal balance lance, they can't really do that anymore at that level. And that really necessitates them taking an assault, a heavy, and a medium, and maybe a light if it's a special purpose one, either with a tag or a narc or ECM purpose. Like, the light's not there to run around and backstab, because it's just going to get killed on the first time it gets shot at by a clan large pulse laser.
Unless every other member of the lance strategically invokes Zellbringer.
Is that like yelling Yahtzee at the on board game night? It's like Yahtzee, and like all the clan players have to scramble or something.
No, it's calling dibs.
Calling dibs. First, definitely picking a BV level that's appropriate for both the IS player and the clan player will be key. I don't want to say go too low, because then you are going to be facing really fast moving clan mechs that still have just as powerful weapons as the other ones. But I also don't want to say go too high to like 20k. Like, don't blow it out the water, because then the IS player is going to have way more armor, way more mechs, and it's going to be a weird scaled. Like, I would say at that point you have to do waves. Like, okay, these are the first 4 or 5 mechs on the table. You kill those, then the second wave comes on. Like, then at that point you might as well just be playing 2 separate games. Like, the immediate engagement, the actual battle, and then the retreat or the last stand. Yeah. So don't be afraid to break up your games into something like that.
And, I personally am a big fan of, having a BV window and keeping it relatively low, and having 1v1 or Solaris style matches, or, 2v2 or something to that effect, just to keep the games a little tighter and quicker, and so it doesn't feel like it's dragging, and keep the momentum. Because while having a huge engagement is absolutely sweet and awesome and cool, it can be a time sink, especially if it is, especially if you have to go to the missile cluster table a whole lot.
Yeah, the LBX-20s definitely slow down the game. As much as we all love them, they do slow it down.
But, I mean, what can I say? I'm a sucker for those, like personal stories on the field, as opposed to the big, large, sweeping engagements, because, it's a little more fun to get in the head and the narrative and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. One thing I will say and add to that is, don't be afraid to not play a true star and a true lance. Like, 5 versus 4 or 5 versus 8. Like, you don't need to have a discrete unit number. Like, there's no reason the clan player can play 3 battle mechs and 2 elementals, and you play a lance with survivors of another lance that just got overrun. Like, don't worry about making the unit composition textbook, because it's on the battlefield. No plan survives contact with the enemy, so there's no reason that you have to be textbook force comp.
The first objective should always be have fun.
As the IS player, your first objective should be to win.
Okay, have fun while winning.
Exactly. But no, so that's a good, like I said, you have to have that discussion about BV and force composition. But like I said, don't be afraid to bend what you're normally used to. So the next part is bringing the new 3039 Lost Tech, the true end-all be-all answer. And I want to say just sometimes. I don't think that every weapon that was lost tech and now thrown onto a brand new chassis is going to significantly improve your chances of enjoying the game and having a good balanced fight.
Well, a fantastic example of that is the XL engine, because it is lost tech. It helps, buff up some designs by freeing up some tonnage. It also makes the game go quicker because you can have your unit go down quicker, especially if you don't have case and you have some ammo hits. And so it's, definitely a mixed bag.
Yeah, the XL engine is, I don't want to say the Achilles heel of so many mechs at this point, just because the armor did not change significantly. Things got XL engines almost like they were coming out the factory and just pumping them into each mech as it went down the line. But getting Pharaoh and Endosteel was not as common at this point. So,
well, Endosteel has, that notorious backlog and difficulty in production, and also, the thing that a lot of people undersell, which is it's the skeleton of the machine. You're taking the whole thing apart and basically rebuilding it from scratch. You have to do that in a factory. That's not a field refit. Like, maybe you can get away with it in a very good or maybe you can get away with it in a very well outfitted shop in a drop ship, maybe
just
like,
you gotta,
and that's not making the Endosteel, that's having it shipped in and you doing all the work there.
You gotta have your techs open that brand new can of hand wavium and grease the inside of the mech and just slide it off of the skeleton onto the endo. But I mean, I definitely think that there are a few weapons in this period that help even the fight against the clans, and that is like the Gauss rifle, the ER PPC, and the ER large lasers. Just the long range, high damage weapons.
The Gauss rifle, the ER PPC, and the ER large lasers are fantastic examples of lost tech that even the but start to level the battlefield, we'll say. Yeah. Because, large lasers are a fantastic benchmark. They are one of the most efficient long-range weapons. The smaller medium laser notoriously is the most efficient weapon in the game. So, it stands to very clear reason that the large laser would be a good benchmark as well. And once you make it ER, it's not quite as good, but the increase in heat is worth it for the damage, especially the range.
Yeah, the increase in range is honestly what you're there for. It's just the clan are always going to be one range bracket outside of what you are used to playing. So IS versus IS, you're always going to be in medium range most of the time. Clan, they're going to be in medium range as well, but that's your long range, which is the problem. Yeah. So you need weapons that bring that long range back down. So, and thus the extended ranges were all born.
A strange slight digression. My co-host Josh, he found a story or interview that he told me about where some of the devs later on, after everything had been released, were like, if we were going to go back and do it again, instead of giving them the increased damage and range, we would have given them something like the Blaze Cannon, where it's 50% more damage for 100% more heat, but probably a little bit better. And so it's just they hit harder now.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting what if. But I think that's going to become a moot point as we go into the Ill Clan era, where we have a much more evening of the tech level, we'll say.
Yeah, everyone's got access to everyone's weapons. There's not really any distinct warehouses. No, they just combined, got bought out. It's all under Amazon now. There's only weapon tech.
Your boys are hooking everybody up.
Diamond Sharks are just driving around. Hey, kid, you want a clan ERPPC? First one's 50% off.
There's just an Atlas in a trench coat, opens. You need a Maxim tank? I got a Maxim tank.
But I definitely think that there are some 3025 variants that don't have an XL engine, so they have increased survivability and have primarily long range weapons, because LRMs did not change drastically. Like, we don't get improved or extended range LRMs for a long time. So LRM 20s, 15s, they are just as good against clan as they were in 3025. So
the one upgrade they get is Artemis, though.
Yeah.
And it's just that it is more common.
Exactly. But the weapon itself does not change, so you don't need to pay for a whole new mech when you can just throw in your old catapult from the introductory box set, and it's just as good. It's going to sit out of range. If they get close, you've got 4 medium lasers most of the time. That's the pinnacle of laser technology, so you can rely on that. If they're outside of medium laser range, they're inside LRM range. But yeah, so don't be afraid. Don't fall into the pit trap of everything Lost Tech is better against clan. So you don't always need the XL engine. You don't always need medium pulse lasers, because remember, the clan are going to be fighting you outside of your range still.
Yeah, pulse lasers are absolutely great, but unfortunately the Inner Sphere versions are a wee bit lackluster when you compare them to the clan versions.
Yeah, if you are doing like a wave game, I definitely wouldn't invest heavily in medium pulse lasers on the first wave, because I doubt they will be able to get in close.
Like, I look at a medium pulse laser on a record sheet and I think, short range weapon system, got it.
Yeah, that's a brawler.
Yeah.
The medium laser, that's an all-rounder. Like, those will go out to 9 hexes, and they do just enough heat that you need to take into account, but not so much that, because you can fire 2 medium lasers to 1 medium pulse at this point. So quantity over quality will be a big advantage when fighting against clan.
Yes.
And speaking of quantity over quality, so another question you have to ask yourself is, should I add more units or upgrade the ones that I already am bringing to the table? What do you like to do in your games when you start increasing PV level, Brent?
I'm a big fan of increasing the pilot skill, especially the gunnery skill, because I like avoiding the feel bads of missing. I'm one of those players. I love the Gauss rifle, and so I like to shoot at long range, but I also don't like to miss. So, that's where I have to put my XP, we'll say.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm still surprised that I saw a 2-3 pilot in the Clan Invasion box set. And I know this is the second time I've talked about it, but they gave an Inner Sphere pilot a 2-3, and then the rest of his lance 3-4. And people just aren't used to upgrading their pilots to that level against clan, but it's even being encouraged officially, which even then it didn't close the gap completely against the weakened star, they said. So
yeah, I mean, there's there's a certain level of narrative dissidence there, but at the same time, you can also argue that sort of trope of the best of the clans breaking into the Inner Sphere and slaughtering the unsuspecting units who are completely outmatched in both skill and technology really was only the first part of the invasion, because, as soon as people started to react to what happened, you had the whole of the Federated Commonwealth mobilizing to blunt the attack, and you start seeing the best of that military, which is extensive, getting focused on a very narrow theater. So pretty soon the skill level starts to even out, or maybe even switch, depending on how granular you want to look at the units, because I can think of several units that were sent into Jade Falcon space that could argue to have a better training and experience than the units they faced.
I want to say during the Succession Wars, not a lot of houses wanted to throw around their expert elite pilots. No, we're going to keep you around. You've proven your worth. Let's not send you on a suicide mission and possibly get you killed when you're more useful teaching, training, and defending this semi-important world. But
well, I mean, you can kind of get it summed up that whole perspective with the opposite that you can read about in the Wolf's Dragoons, literature about how they overall save money because they invest in training their pilots as opposed to burying their pilots and funeral payouts, which is, like a very, backhanded way of saying everyone else just throws their pilots in and sees who survives.
I mean, at that point in the wars, what else are you going to do? Mechwarriors are a dime a dozen. But the experienced ones definitely pay for themselves in the long run. So just like in the HBS Battletech, you're investing in your future. Even a 2-3 pilot is only a 1.68 multiplier, which is still worth it. Like a 5K lance becomes 8,400 then. So if you're playing a 10K game against Clan, you could have all 2-3 pilots, which are technically better than them. And your shots, your long range shots, are going to be hitting probably just as often as theirs are on you.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to get really granular, because, the beauty of classic Battletech is it will go as granular as you want it to. Is you can start putting in quirks and, pilot skills and stuff like that. So this pilot, they're really good at LRMs and they happen to be in an archer or, a catapult, that's going to make them real good.
Yeah, give them the sandblaster trait or the sharpshooter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so don't be afraid to throw in your experienced pilots that have been, on the bench to kind of keep the rest of your games fair. Like, this is their time to shine. This is their time to, make every shot that they take.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brent, what's your experience with running like vehicles and infantry and artillery in your games?
Megamech is my experience with that, and but I've had a lot of fun with the bit I have had. I have a new respect for the Maxim hover tank from my hands-on experience with it, getting in and deploying some infantry in some battle armor, and then getting out of dodge. As long as the terrain allows it. I think vehicles and combined arms are absolutely great because, having mechs bump into each other is a lot of fun and you can have the duels and all of that stuff. But eventually that it doesn't lose its luster, but it can feel a little samey or played out. And vehicles are a thing that would exist. And, I think infantry and battle armor is underappreciated because going forward, we're having a lot of HPG networks either down or in a state of repair, and there's also more of a focus on facilities and infrastructure, and so having a perspective of the people who can actually get into the buildings and secure them and do this stuff is going to be interesting and cool, and I'm excited for more of that if we get it.
Yeah,
because I don't care how big your building is, a locust is still not going to be able to secure a control room.
Yeah. I want to say that in 3025, infantry and vehicles and stuff, they were there, but they were almost more thrown in for flavor, but not with a purpose.
See, I always thought of them as more of the planet garrison of, this is what the militia threw together with the resources it had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but now if you're fighting against Clan, that becomes extremely important because that's another. If they're shooting at the vehicles or the infantry or everything, they're not shooting at the mechs, and just some cheap strikers or SRM carriers. They're still not going to want to come close to an SRM carrier, just on the chance that it hits them.
I know as soon as I see an SRM carrier on HBS Battletech, I'm like, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it.
Exactly. So, this is kind of a new era where vehicles and the combined arms really will help you, if not as much. You don't have to be a brilliant, tank commander Zukov, running around doing perfect flanking maneuvers with tanks. It's no, they just need to be there if you want. Like you can either you can either throw in more mechs, upgrade your pilots, or throw in some vehicles, which I'm always a big fan of, just things that are just going to sit back, that are never going to get shot, and are just like 3 more dice to roll. Like an LRM carrier, a Pike, a Shrek, an Alicorn. Just for some reason, all of the vehicles have like 3 of the same gun. And that's just 3 dice rolls. And it's like, you hit. If you're not, that's fine. It's normally going to be far away. It can be shooting in long range the whole time. 1 hit's going to make up for the point difference and cost. Like, you don't need to be the super efficient, tank buster. One PVC hit on a light mech is worth it almost.
And, depending on the era, you could definitely take something with a tag and have a arrow launcher, an arrow 4 launcher tank sitting on the backfield.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, artillery is like going to be the Intersphere player's favorite new toy to play with in the Clan Invasion, because a long time is 30 damage on the hex it hits, 20 on the one surrounding that, and then 10 more on the surrounding. Like
splash damage.
Exactly. And that damage is not affected by the target's movement modifier. So you're hitting the ground and just getting everything inside of it. It's indiscriminate, but it can be game-changing and powerful.
It is a powerful tool that needs to be used with care and consideration.
Exactly. And honestly, even if you don't have like an artillery mech or model, like just saying there are rules for off-table artillery, like just say that, like, hey, I'm paying for 3 or 4 turns worth of artillery and I get to roll that. And like, okay, that's fine.
I mean, in the rulebook, it says that you can play this game with proxies and effectively bottle caps in order to, represent a machine that you may not have, so there's no reason you can't have a little proxy for a tank.
My brain's already like designing the bottle cap, like the screw plastic cap with the straw that's glued into the side. Like, all right, that's my long tom turret. They dropped it off. The driver drove away. He's like, "You got 10 rounds. Use them wisely." As he gets out of Dodge, heads for the dropship.
So a straw for the barrel and toothpicks for the missiles.
Exactly. And you actually have to like toss them, and that's where they actually hit. It's like actually playing darts. Like, all right, now I need someone here to like put the abstract picture of all of the maps they're using on the wall and throw the darts or like blue tack or gum, and wherever it hits, that's where the artillery strike lands. It's a game within a game, people. But yeah, so don't be afraid to like break out the combined arms, because combined arms is the new name of the game in this era. Like even infantry on field guns or just machine guns, like 5 damage point blank to a mech is 5 damage point blank to a mech. Like, it's hard to describe that. They are shooting the mech, and the mech is going to be shooting infantry and not your mechs or your vehicles. It's
one trick that I've found is actually quite surprising if they are not expecting it, is SRM infantry, but Inferno.
Whoa. You mean Clan actually having to use their double heat sinks?
I mean, some players are like, I'm Clan, I can do all the things, and just, full bore, and, because they have all those double heat sinks, they will use them every turn if they can.
And you're taking away that resource that they've stubbornly relied on.
It's actually kind of interesting, because it's kind of a way you can tell if somebody played in 3025 is how they handle heat in a clan mech. Is there that hesitation? Probably did some Succession era time.
They shoot first, math later kind of guy. I know me and Dustin have been trying to introduce a couple of missions to help balance out games. Have you played any, Brent, or are you mainly just a scrum it in the middle kind of guy?
I do enjoy the narrative. I haven't had a chance to play any campaigns or anything like that, but I hope to in the future. all of the stuff that people have been starting to build and I've been hearing about all sounds absolutely fantastic. And, because like I vlogged a lot of hours on HBS Battletech even before I started playing with mods. And eventually it doesn't matter how many mechs you spice it up with or how many vehicles you throw in there, you're going to be running the same convoy mission, intercept or protect ad nauseum. There's only so many times you can do a straight up fight. There's just only so many scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
So variety is the spice of life, is what I'm trying to say.
I know for me, I almost always need like a narrative reason of like, all right, this isn't just border skirmish war. This is clan invasion. Why are the clan invading this planet? Is there like a command bunker? Am I defending a city? Are they defending an ammo cache? And this is me assaulting them. Like,
am I defending an evacuation?
Ooh, even better.
Yeah. Because you know that a whole bunch of facilities, once they figured out what was going on, got evacuated very quickly, so they had their scientists get out of Dodge.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, that's a mission is something that is huge in trying to play against the clan have the range advantage, but they shouldn't always just be able to sit, at the edge of their range bracket firing. Like, there has to be a purpose for them to, like, get in close to the IS player, or vice versa. The IS player goes in and fights against the clans at close range. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you're doing a defend or attack mission, like, that's something is great to, like, dictate the engagement range, essentially. Dictate where the battle is going to actually happen, because you're probably not going to be playing on just one sheet or two sheets. You might be playing on 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. So, make a mission, give an objective, whether it be something more narrative, like, all right, we are fighting here over this thing, and that's going to dictate where the fight happens and how close. I'd also want to say define how many turns, so if the clan player can't achieve that objective in that time, well, there's no point in fighting anymore, because the second wave of inner sphere reinforcements is going to arrive.
Mm-hmm. And if we want to touch on how to fight the clans, if you're an inner sphere player, when you're looking at your map, it's all about location. Look at where you are, where they are. They have the range advantage, so use the topography and the foliage or natural things, not trees, alien fauna, to obscure, like your movements. Obviously, you're probably not going to have the fog of war, but you can have enough modifiers from your movement and from the blocking of the site so that their range advantage means nothing, because they're still not going to be able to hit. Like, if they need to roll a 14 to hit, they're not going to hit.
Yeah. And make sure you guys are picking, like, maps that are, like, worth fighting on. I know I've played clan games where the clan player is like, all right, cool, I'll do my half of the tables maps and you do your half, and I'll break out like my starter introductory map sheets, because those are pretty balanced, and he brings out there are 3 trees on this entire grid, like, that is it, it's all flat. And he's like, well, I just wanted to be able to run very fast. I'm like, that doesn't really serve much purpose. Like, there's no point in us fighting there on an open field.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's lots of ways to set up the maps and the objectives. Instead of having the tree line be running across the field of fire, you could have it running parallel. And so then you have to choose which side of the sort of lanes are you guys going to be on for positioning and things like that. And that allows you options without feeling cheesy or preventing feel bads.
Yeah, we're still trying to avoid feel bads, and we want both players to be able to enjoy the game while also having not a blowout, because everything that I tell you is not to just like crush the clan player. It's to make sure that the game is more fairly balanced and comes down to more to skill rather than technology difference.
Mm-hmm. Or theoretically just losing the initiative. Having the clan mech that you're facing off of be able to move after you, and so therefore getting that good position and getting a shot off that maybe clips you.
Yeah. Losing initiative is not fun, especially when you're doing it multiple times in a row against a clan player.
That can be the end of a game.
I've been there. I think it was 7 turns of initiative failing. I was like, I just need one. I just need one.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, so pick a map that's interesting to play on that doesn't like supremely favor one player over another. Like, you don't want the open field if someone's bringing all sniping stuff, or all brawling if you're playing in like level 4 valleys. Like, choose something that's interesting and would be more appropriate to play on.
Or if it favors one side, have it favor them for a reason. Like the Inner Sphere player is defending this compound, which is why they have that open field that, the clans have to, punch into, where they can get opened up on by multiple units.
Yeah. Like, of course, the Comstar would have like its HPG station, heavily surrounded on a terrain that gives it an advantage. Like, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it makes sense because a lot of Comstar facilities are just Star League facilities with a new paint job.
They chose that for all the defenses and ability to secure them. Like, they don't want people just walking in there.
And they also understand the importance of making sure that their landscapers are paid up to date so the tree line is maintained properly and doesn't encroach.
I feel like talking to my landlord. So do you play with Zelbringen a lot, or is that something that you leave up to your narrative games when you play on Mega Mech?
Generally, I let that hold up to the narrative. If we're going to do something a little more, fun sort of thing. I mean, there's been once or twice on Tuesday night fights at Wolfnet where I wouldn't call it Zelbringer, but I've been like, hey, how about we don't shoot each other until the end? It's like, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, how about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, we neither of us the couple times with the couple people I have done that with have had to violate said oaths, but usually one of us gets knocked out before that has come to that impasse.
Yeah, like I was talking with last episode with Dustin, we play with it sometimes, but we also feel like it's not like a super game-changing way of balancing the game. All it's there to do is prevent the clan player from just like alpha striking all of his mechs on one mech, killing that guy. Like, like if you and your opponent don't really need it, it doesn't really need to be there. Like, I know I personally already kind of play like the dueling method, like a Draconis Combine player might play.
Yeah. Well, also, like, the question, I guess, is more for me, not do you use Zelbringer, but more are you playing a narrative game, or are you just playing a for funsy game? Are you testing out machines, or are you trying to reenact this event or this theoretical skirmish? And, if I'm playing the clans, I'm going to play them like clans. You guys on previous episodes have kind of covered the ideology or philosophy of the clan units and how they operate compared to each other. And, I may not go that detailed, but I'd still be like, okay, so we're going to kind of face off against, if not 1v1, but like this Mad Dog is going to take this area of the battlefield. This Timber Wolf is going to take this area of the battlefield, and, so on and so forth.
Like I said, you don't feel like you need to be restricted by Zelbringen and honor rules if that's something you don't need to. I also want to say that it is an optional rule, so that's also kind of hard to be taken onto the table, because every player that you play is actually quote unquote an Inner Sphere person from Terra, so it's hard to like fully you get into the mindset of a clan player and be like, no, I can't do this, because we're always thinking, what's the best tactic rather than there is no tactic. I'm dictated by honor. Like,
yeah, like if we're going to actually go by the strictest letter of the law and I'm gonna put on my lore hat here and just completely nerd out for a second, during the invasion, you can read chapters in the Blood of Kerensky trilogy where the Inner Sphere people are going, this is interesting. They fire on other units 1.28 whatever times, whereas we fire on units like 1.35. It's like, oh, that's a pretty minimal statistical anomaly. And they're like, oh, no, but it's usually after they've been fired on by multiple units. And so, you get the clan perspective, which is, like, I am in an honor duel, but, oh, this other person has fired on me and that has violated, the honor. And so now I am free to fire on both of these people. So it's just more of a, do you do the first shot or not?
Yeah. It's a weird concept, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it after all these years and how to actually put it into good practice without metagaming and a gaming additive.
Yeah. But also remember, it is a concept for a warrior culture where this is a game to them. They are bidding for honor, and it is usually going to boil down to a bunch of 1v1s, and then whoever is left after those squares off against each other until there is one or two people from one side still standing.
Yeah.
This is not how the Inner Sphere conducts warfare. And that works. And, also theoretically, if there was an unbalanced match, as in, there was 4 versus 5, you would theoretically have one of the members of the 4 from that, air quote star that was bid down be like, well, I will take 2 as, my pledge of honor for this match and call for glory. And then they'd issue a challenge, and, we'd see what would happen from there, because at that point, it's a whole bunch of interpersonal communications on the battlefield. And if you want to roleplay that, awesome, more power to you. And that's cool. I don't have a play group that I feel we could get through that in any sort of time frame that I'm comfortable with.
But yeah, so that's pretty much all of our basic stuff. I will say, what are your thoughts on using force withdrawal in clan games like this?
I really feel like it is depending on the mission. If it's a evacuation, if it is a delaying tactic, if it is a regular engagement, force withdrawal makes total sense, because it's a military. Things are rendered combat ineffective. You don't want to pull the HBS AI move where it doesn't have any armor or weapons left and it runs up and tries to kick you.
Yeah.
These are expensive machines that have been in families for generations. You're going to try and salvage what you can and get off the battlefield and rebuild, and so that you can come back for revenge. So that makes sense. The time I would fight to the bitter end is if you're, defending a compound, if there's a reason for you to be laying your life on the line.
Victor Steiner Davion is getting to his dropship, and you're the only thing in the way, holding him off.
Exactly. And the only reason he's leaving is because he's unconscious, because someone clocked him.
But yeah, so I always want to say, have that discussion before the game on force withdrawal. It's like, okay, do we want to do that for the game purpose? Do we want to do that for a narrative purpose?
It doesn't seem like a lot of fun, and it can feel like a lot of work and like a giant, roadblock at the beginning to talk about these things. But I think it really improves the game overall, and on average, the speed. Just setting out this is what we're doing. These are the parameters. This is kind of what we're going for. This is how deep we want to get. for a pickup game, that can be a lot if you're meeting a person and another player for the first time. But, just try to be like, hey, yeah, cool. Maybe be like, yeah, you want to play a game? Cool. And, take a little time unpacking all of your stuff and break up the conversation break up the conversation by taking a moment to talk about like, oh, so how'd you get into BattleTech? Because you want to play games with your friends. So you're not here just to play a game. You're here to also make friends.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up our first little section on Fighting the Clans 101. Now, so we'll probably get some advanced courses where we go into each of those more in depth, but we just really wanted to cover a brief overview of all of the different components of Fighting the Clans from an Inner Sphere perspective holds. But no, so we don't have anything else, Brent, I'd like to thank you for being on here and helping me cover the syllabus for Clan Tactics 101.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to having you back at my little corner of the internet.
So for our listeners that don't know where to find you or where to listen to you at,
you can find me at on the Origin of BattleMechs podcast, and if any of your listeners are interested in finding out about the nitty-gritty of a machine, that's a place that I hope you will enjoy finding out about it.
Awesome. And I'd like to thank all of our listeners and patrons for your support. I also hear Wave 2 is on the way, so I wish everyone a fast and safe delivery this week. And you can find us on Facebook, Discord, and at Gmail at the Mech Bay Podcast. You Mechwarriors have a good night, and remember, through salvage, all things are possible.